There's a lot more that could be said about that paper, but I'll leave it there.
Is part of the problem that it's too simplistic? That the game is too simplistic, or is it much?
Well, you could say that. Okay, so but you could also say that if you take so this is a game built out of simulation. So the action of these electric fields is simulated accurately. Okay.
But it was designed by people at CMU who were trying to teach physicists.
Yeah.
Jill Fane Lehman, I happened to be around when this began. She's a linguist and AI person, and she said, I can play electric field hockey really well, and I don't know a damn thing about physics. And that was kind of the beginning of this investigation. I mean,
another thing they did as part of this that's interesting is, that sort of following up on the Jill Lehman observation, was they actually constructed a computer model that could learn to play electric field hockey, and where they could go through and find out what it had learned. Okay, but then they also followed up with empirical work of pre and post testing involving real simulation. Okay. Yeah.
Can we just have the simulation?
Can we just have the simulation?
One could probably even more readily argue that the game is too complex, not that it's too simple, and that the reason that they're not learning is that you're simulating complex behaviors where there's a lot of physics behind it, but it's too complex to learn conceptually in the context of the game. Instead, you learn by trial and error how to run the game. Whereas if you want to learn the physics, you have to approach it, if you like, in a more simplistic way, or
we could try to pursue that. I'm not sure how far you get making it more simplistic, but I agree with you that well, anyway, yeah, could be.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So your statement was that you don't learn anything, or paraphrasing, that you don't learn anything useful about electric fields.
Right.
In this game, but that seems to imply that what you learn in this game is a completely separate, disjoint set of pieces of knowledge from all the pieces of knowledge that make up important things about electric fields.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you sure that's true?
Yeah.
I mean,
what are you thinking?
Opposites attract, and
no. I said.
Closer is,
okay, so most people, when they come to the game, already know that like charges repel and opposite charges attract. I gave you that.
They know that as a piece
wait a
of
minute.
actual knowledge that
Even if they don't know it and they do learn it, that's all they learn.
How about closer is stronger?
They don't learn that.
They don't learn that?
They don't learn that. That's getting more into a little more of the structure of this. You don't need to know that in order to play it well.
So,
okay.
So this game didn't have feedback? In the Fed version of the simulation, you can turn on, or by default there's arrows that show the force, and as you move
right.
the charge you want in place around, you see artifacts and
right.
pop.
Maybe that's been added since this revolution.
It is.
Even still, I think the idea that you don't learn anything useful about electric fields is a very strong statement.
I'm making strong statements here tonight. Okay, so going a little bit further, so more to the disconnect between learning and playing, which I said that's kind of the fundamental issue, illustrated by the paper we just saw, right? People can play the stuff all right, it's just that it has little to do with what they learn. So this is an elaborate...
I actually want to ask something. So
sure.
Always, and I've always been confused about this with respect to the games. It's like learning that particular content. I agree with the statement that you made, but they may be learning fundamental elements about the design of games or about the way games work.
Oh, we'll talk about that later. But okay, I'll just accuse you of doing something that James Gee and many other people do, which is moving the target.
I am moving the target.
Okay, so you start by saying, we're going to learn about science, right? And you come out learning about something else, but you're still happy, right?
No, I'm not happy.
Well, anyway, we'll talk more about that later.
Isn't that how science proceeds all the time?
Excuse me?
Isn't that how science proceeds all the time?
Well, within reason, again. So if we found that we were learning something really, really important and exciting, we could be excited about it. But I question whether that's true. Okay, so I'll say more about that later. Okay, so a little bit, getting a little bit more into this. So where's this word engagement coming from? Well, why did I, and why do lots of other people, or what's part of why we lit up at the idea, gee, these game things and we were great? Well, if you know one thing about education, it should be that time on task is really important. If you're going to learn something, you've got to be engaged with it over some period of time. And games are great. I mean, people voluntarily spend large amounts of time playing games. So it seems like that has to be good. It's a good first step. And people often say, well, and furthermore, they do it because playing games is fun. So we thought a lot about this. We say, well, it's not really quite right. Okay? Think about solitaire. If you want to be high-tech, you can think about FreeCell, which at least used to come on all Windows machines. Maybe it still does. There are people, I know one of my friends from grad school actually was, I believe he's cured now, but he was addicted to FreeCell. There's a definition of what addiction is. Addiction is when you do something more than you want to. Okay? And that was his situation. He talked about it. I'm staying up too late. I'm spending time on this that I should be spending on other kinds of things. I really wish I could spend less time playing FreeCell, and I can't. That's what addiction is. Now, is FreeCell fun? Okay, it doesn't seem like the right word, right? You don't when somebody's playing FreeCell and it comes out, they don't throw confetti and cheer and ask you to come and look, or whatever. They just say, oh, okay, it came out. Let me try it again. It's going to come out again. They're hooked on it. They're hooked on doing it over and over again, despite the fact that it isn't particularly fun, but it is engaging. So we've learned a lot about what makes things engaging. I'm not going to talk about all of these, but I'm going to talk about others. If anybody's interested in this, Lucas, so I do have notes about all this. These are just kind of the headings from the notes. But let's look at a couple of these things. So here's a biggie. So unfortunately, it's really badly named for historical reasons, but I'm telling you what it's about there. And for some of you, this may be counterintuitive. So in our society especially, we really like the idea of rewards. So in business, you get what you reward. People toss things around like that. But rewards are actually much more subtle than most people think. And just one of the subtleties is this one. You might think that if you want someone to keep doing something, what you want to do is just reward them every time they do it. Well, that's not really true. At least if you withdraw the reward and you've been rewarding the behavior consistently, it will extinguish, as the term is, almost right away, as soon as you stop rewarding it. If you want somebody to really be hooked, you need to do what FreeCell does, which is to reward you only occasionally, right? And we all know this at some level, right? So if you were playing a solitaire game and it came out every time, what the heck is the point, right? The whole thing about solitaire is that it only occasionally comes out. And it's that occasional reinforcement that keeps you coming after it. This is a huge effect. But notice, the point for us here is partial reinforcement has nothing whatsoever to do with the conceptual content of what you're doing. Okay, from an intellectual point of view, it's like empty calories, right? There are lots of things you can put in substances to get people to eat them, but they're not necessarily nutritive. They're just phagostimulants. They make you eat, but they're not nourishing, okay? So partial reinforcement keeps you doing stuff, but you don't learn anything from it. You might be saying, well, I still don't see what's bad about that, but stay with me on this. Okay, so here's another one. This, unfortunately, is hard to describe, but it's also really powerful and really ubiquitous. So imagine, and you'll see why I'm introducing this way in a minute. Imagine that you're seeing here a storyline, right? So you're watching a movie where somebody is trying to do something, and they start working towards their goal, and as the minutes of the film go by, well, gee, they're making steady progress. Well, it's great. Oh, well, another month in, more progress towards the goal, all the way through. Hey, end of the film, we accomplished our goal. Incredibly boring. You will not see a film like this. Instead, virtually every film you see is like this. Anybody see Nixon Frost or Frost Nixon or whatever it was? Amazing how nobody I give this talk to has seen that. I use that because it's an example of how what I'm about to describe to you is not just something that you see in potboilers. Serious, quote, good movies, unquote, do exactly the same thing. It's like this. What happens is people are kind of working around, maybe there's a little sort of variability, and it looks like they're sort of getting there, but then some terrible thing happens. And oh, it's despair. And there's a scene, usually it's muted lighting, and the music gets soft, and the protagonists are getting for a sort of episode of regret. We gave it everything we had, but it was not to be. We're not going to be able to save the world from the orcs or whatever it is. Okay? But, ooh, there's some positive development, and rapidly the film runs through to completion, and the heroes win, and the villains lose, and all that good stuff happens. Okay? This is so ubiquitous that you can buy software to help you write screenplays this way. But this isn't from software, but this is that thing. This is the 3-act screenplay. Okay? Right here, point of return, major setback. Okay? This is what you do to engage people. Okay? Games are great at this. Sports are as well. So what you really want is not just that overall thing, which is what the 3-act structure does give you, but you really want something that has this happening at all scales, where things look like they're getting better, and you fall back. Looking like you're making progress, kind of going, cycles of building of tension, progress towards the goal, tension coming from, look, it looks like maybe we're going to succeed, and then release, disappointment. Okay? I don't like to use sports analogies in my talk, but some of them are so good that they're good ways to make the point. My apologies to people who don't know these sports, but both baseball and American football could have been designed by somebody with this thing in mind. They weren't designed that way, but they evolved that way. So think about it. At all scales, you have little things which individually mean nothing, but they represent progress towards or away from the goal. So let's imagine that you're rooting for the batting side. Ball, ooh, that's good. Not definitively good, but a little bit of good, right? Ooh, strike, not so good. Ooh, 2 balls. Full count, 3 and 2. Ooh, the tension is there. And then either, they got a hit, great. Continued progress, oh, struck out. Yeah, release. Next batter comes up. Okay? Got the runner on first, runner on second, runner on third. End of the inning. But man left on. Right? Built into the fabric of it. American football could be the textbook on this. Right? There's so much structure built in. There's so many opportunities for the tension to be both built up and then kind of released. Right? So you make a little bit of yardage or you lose yardage, getting up towards the first down, and then either, oh, you got the first down. Okay, release of tension, but you're still making progress, or, oh, you have to turn the ball over on downs, and everything goes to hell from the point of view of the team that was on offense. So these sports have this structure at all scales. But again, none of this has anything to do with learning anything. It keeps you watching. Keeps you watching even potboilers. Keeps you watching things that have no content. Because you're engaged in this. Romantic comedies, right? Keeps you watching them, okay? It has nothing to do with learning anything. And still you might be saying, well, what does this matter? These are just lerno stimulants. Keep people there. It does matter.